Well, good morning and welcome to Unity of Charlotte. It's my pleasure and it's an honor to be able to welcome you to our Sunday service for July the 3rd, 2022. It's delightful to be here on this holiday weekend, and we trust that we will share something with you that lifts your spirits. So happy to see those who are in attendance today. We have an opportunity for fellowship, and we absolutely love it. And we certainly welcome all of our Unity of Charlotte members just to take advantage of every opportunity for fellowship. It warms the soul when we do that. So, let us open with our prayer of oneness, and we will say it together. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good, omnipotent. And at this time, let me share with you the daily word for this date. It's tremendous that Unity Worldwide Ministries has continued to publish daily word and make it available to us for well over 100 years. And the title for this day is Living from My Christ Nature Sets Me Free. Ah, that's a word, free. And freedom. And we'll be hearing more about that theme as we go along. As a spiritual being, I am always free. I remember this at those moments I feel at the mercy of an unpredictable world. While I may not be able to control what happens around me, I can take comfort knowing I don't need to control that. I am free to choose my response, but even more, I am free to meet life from my divinity. The breath of my spiritual power informs my view. In prayer, I claim divine ideas. I use my gift of imagination to envision the life I wish to live and the gift of will to make choices to bring that about. I speak affirmations to raise my own consciousness and help create conditions for my highest and best outcomes to manifest. I find precious freedom realizing that life doesn't happen to me, life happens through me. And here is a word from the book of John, 8th chapter, 36th verse. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. If the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. So join me for a brief prayer. Father, Mother God, oh, how we love you. Oh, how we love to gather in fellowship to worship and serve you. It brings joy to our souls to come together. And we invite those who are in our Zoom audience and our YouTube audience to think about coming forth, being present, joining us in heartfelt fellowship and worship. When we show up to worship, our faith is activated. When we show up to serve, our faith is activated. When we engage in the practice of spiritual principles, our faith is activated. When we see beyond the mess of all of the forms and the ways in which spirit shows up, when we can see through to the truth of spirit, despite what it looks like on the outside, our faith is activated. Oh God, we ask that you would stimulate the entire unity of Charlotte's spiritual community to act in faith, show up for this wonderful fellowship. We ask these things in your name, knowing that they manifest as we believe. And we believe that truth and love and fellowship are manifesting in this spiritual community. And we release it to you, knowing and thanking you for this manifestation of goodness. And so it is. Amen. Well, now we have a lovely choir, and I want you to know how proud I am of our choir. They show up every Sunday. Yes, they do. Thank you, choir. All right, we have some things going on in the month of July. This is the first Sunday, and I'm going to just announce to everyone that your Board of Trustees is going to be meeting on the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. That is July the 12th. July the 12th, the Tuesday at 10 a.m., we will have a meeting probably in the prayer room back in the corner where we assemble after our services. And I'm saying that first because, again, it's an opportunity to fellowship. And fellowship is a wonderful thing in the unity world. So let us take advantage of it. Also, I want to announce, I think I'm repeating an announcement that Reverend Pat made the last two Sundays, namely that ministerial candidates, Reverend Jim Ernsten and Reverend Lisa Herklotz, will be here for a Sunday message and a workshop on July the 24th. That is the fourth Sunday of this month, July the 24th. The workshop will be at the Courtyard by Marriott over in South Park at 11 a.m. And so we are going to invite all of our members to bring a potluck, a dish, or sandwiches, or dessert. I wonder who likes dessert. But we do have a great opportunity the last Sunday of this month, and we should look forward to and anticipate a great time together. Now, there is also something else going on. A lot of work is going on behind the scenes, and I want to acknowledge that Reverend Pat, Jim, and Alan have assisted me and other members of your board to look for a space for our worship, our classes, our general gatherings. And so we have been turning every stone. We have been calling all the possibilities. We are just doing our best to come up with some choices for you to make. You're going to be making some choices. You're going to be telling us something next Sunday. That is July the 10th. So if you just have to come in your pajamas, it's all right with me. It is, really, really. Because I know you're not used to dressing up on Sunday morning anymore, but we're just going to invite you. You know, you see people walking around in their pajamas in the drugstores, in the convenience stores, crossing the street, you know, in Walmart. I mean, people got pajamas on all over. So it's okay. If you just got to come in your pajamas, we will not reject you. We will not enforce a wardrobe standard. You know, we just don't want no see-through clothes. I mean, we don't want to be pajamas, okay, but we don't want to see through the pajamas. Yeah. Oh, someone reminded me that means, ladies, no negligees. Thank you for that reminder. All right. So there's going to be a terrific service as well as a town hall meeting. It will begin at 9:30 on next Sunday. And Reverend Pat is going to pull together a wonderful blend of town hall and worship on that day. Did that just happen to go out on me? Why would it do that? I was talking. Hello. Oh my goodness. There's no lights coming on at all. Zero lights coming on. It just died on me. What did I say wrong? Negligee. I said negligee. Oh, well, I can't say that anymore. I will continue. I'm sorry for those technical difficulties this morning, but we will rise above them as we always do. And as to how to tie into the announcements I've just made, the July the 10th, as well as the July the 24th, you can just go to unityofcharlotte.org. You will find the links there. In addition, most of you receive an email from our administrator, Alan Batten, every week, and you will find the links in that email as well. So we look forward to greater numbers as we fellowship next week on Sunday and make some real decisions about where we're going to be worshiping in the near future. So now we have a need to do our regular affirmations, and I will read those for you. Those of you who have memorized them can also say them, recite them with me. One of the affirmations is for a new spiritual leader. The other one is for a new home for Unity of Charlotte. We affirm the presence of a new spiritual leader for Unity of Charlotte who will carry forth our mission-centric vision, energize our leadership and membership, and expand the practice of unity principles in the greater Charlotte area and beyond. We affirm that we have a new home for Unity of Charlotte that fulfills every need for space and use in order to support and share our unified purpose to love, grow, and serve, and so it is. Well, at this time, I want to do something that is always a joy to do. One of the very best friends I have ever had is going to be speaking to you this morning. She is an ordained New Thought minister, and she has dedicated herself to the life of this New Thought community, Unity of Charlotte. She and I have both dedicated ourselves to doing whatever it takes. You may recall how our President Biden has spoken his heart to the people of Ukraine He says that they will be there till the end, that USA will support Ukraine through it all. Well, you can count on Reverend Pat Drea and Lawrence Tolliver to be here until we leave. You do understand what I just said, right? And we will only leave when we are taken to our spiritual home. We got that. She's just a delightful person. She brings her heart to every situation, and you will love her message about something we all care about, and that is freedom. Reverend Pat.
Wow, now I have to do it, right? It's so good to be with you this morning. I had a lot of fun preparing for this talk. And the actual title of my talk is Life in the Flow. You know, here we are, we're celebrating so many things at once. We're celebrating the new minister that is pretty soon to be here with us. We're celebrating a new home that we have brought into being and is emerging and manifesting as we speak. We have managed to do so many things that have brought the Unity Church and the high idea of Unity of Charlotte into focus, into prosperity, and out beyond COVID. And so isn't it perfect that today we are celebrating freedom? We're celebrating the freedom of expression that we have. Now, one of the things that happened to me in getting prepared, which is actually part of today's lesson, I only realized it after I said, what's the lesson here? And I said, oh, I talked about it in the talk. You see, my computer made a decision to go on the fritz as I was writing this talk. Now, I fussed for a moment and then I said, wait a minute, what am I talking about? And what is it that feeds into? And it was that you always have everything you need. At any moment, the universe provides everything that you need. So my computer being on the fritz apparently was not important. And so that was fine. And then when I arrived here and dear friends David and Ann were coming in the door, I managed to drop said computer on the ground to finish off its life. Aha. But we have what we need. Guess what's arriving this afternoon by Amazon? The new computer. And so I have everything that I need. What was going to go up now, but you know, our projectors aren't doing what they are expected to do. So you can use it, you can imagine it in your mind, which will be equally as effective. And that is a picture of the Liberty Bell. Now, if it were up on the screen, I'd say to you, do you recognize what this is? And with that big crack down it, you'd all know, oh, that's the Liberty Bell. But here's what I want to share with you. The origin of the Liberty Bell goes a little bit deeper than we've been told so far. You see, the Liberty Bell was originally cast intended to commemorate a unique idea of freedom that was articulated by the British Quakers and then communicated very effectively to numerous influential people by William Penn. So William Penn was an English writer, thinker, and a Quaker who was responsible, come to find out, for the Quaker emigration from England to the colonies. Now, interestingly enough, you think when your computer goes bad, that's not good news and it's problematic. Well, William Penn was personally persecuted for his religious beliefs and incarcerated in the Tower of London numerous times. But guess what he did during that time? He pondered everything that he knew and expanded on his concepts of freedom from his prison cell. He further shaped those ideas and then stepped out into the world in between incarcerations, of course, to articulate to the king at the time that maybe allowing and encouraging a mass emigration to the colonies by the Quakers would be a good idea. And since the king was really annoyed with the Quakers because they were persistent, and that will come up later too, he allowed this mass immigration out of Europe and out of the British, out of England. And William Penn was part of that emigration. Now, what was this expansion in the idea of liberty that William Penn has evolved? And he evolved in the consciousness of the Quakers. It was the expanded idea of the liberty of conscience. You see, there is a basic idea of freedom that says, do only what is right, okay? Do the right thing, don't do the wrong thing. Do the golden rule. But the liberty of conscience says something much further than that. It says that the liberty extends to the ideas of any individual, no matter what their religion is, no matter what their beliefs are. And it doesn't matter whether I or whether a Quaker believes it's wrong. Their individual expression is sacrosanct. That is the greater idea of freedom. And that was the idea that was cast when the Liberty Bell was made. It is interesting to me to have this idea of soul freedom or reciprocal liberty right now for myself on this weekend as I look at some of the things that have happened in the recent past and in the not so recent past. It certainly casts some light on possibilities, on ways to view the unity of all of life and respect individual choices and preferences. So I would like to say and put this idea in front of you that this concept of reciprocal liberty and soul freedom is important for us to embrace as we respect the unity of the one. These ideas have been beautifully articulated in a very large book called Albion's Seed by David Hackett Fisher, which articulates the 4 major British folkways in America, but it's done in great specificity. And so I appreciate Mr. Fisher for his bringing to light so many more ideas of where we come from. And the Quaker ideology is a very important part of where we come from because it was a significant contrast from the Puritans. Now, I want to talk about something, an idea that has become a very important focus of mine. And I can't help but make a personal comment about this because my dear friend Barbara Rolfe will recognize the source of this. And that is the segue that I'm making right now to an idea that is essential to my freedom and all of our freedom as an individual expression of God, and that is the inner journey. So on the theme of freedom and the idea of expanded reciprocal freedom or life or liberty, what is unique about unity as a philosophy, as a teaching, as principles that are important to our house? Well, certainly we know that the idea of the unity and the oneness that we come from and the individual expressions that we are is essential to that and recognizing the divinity within each one. But here it is and what it means to me right now. Simply put, I must live my journey from the inside out. Well, that idea has been in my mind for quite a while. But what has occurred to me is the way in which I regard how I show up in life and think that that's really me. And so I ask of you the question that you can answer for yourself. When you say I am, what do you think comes after the I am? This is what I've come to realize and really ponder in my prayer and meditation life. What it means is living from the soul outward, not from my attachment to my body, to my emotions, and to my mental life. You see, long after the physical expression of who I am and who you are, long after the emotions are gone along with the body and the senses are gone as well, the true essence of who we are is there and continues infinitely. It never goes away. The physical, emotional, and mental are simply the tools we use to experience life on this plane. It's just a temporary arrangement. But you know, our memories don't go back quite as well to remember the before the birth kind of thing. And so we become ever so attached to our bodies, to our emotions, and we believe or act, as I do some days, that they are the reality of who I am. But now I am remembering that once the body, emotions, and mental are discarded, the real me is there forever. And the real me goes on forever. So what am I going to do now that I get up in the morning and I got to grab that cup of coffee before I can even stumble any farther forward? And when I look at what I'm going to wear and when I remembered what I watched on TV last night, what am I doing about my forgetting? You know, I get so involved in living and managing my life. I struggle to remember that I am the soul, that I am consciousness, that I'm not the body, emotions, and mental faculties. And then I remember something that I learned now a couple of decades ago. And those are the first two steps of prayer. God is, step one, I am made of the very same thing. Step two. And from therein lies the truth of living from the inside out. It's not number one, get up and get the coffee, figure out what you're going to wear today, get the shower, and worry about the things you forgot to do yesterday. It's none of those things. It's none of those things. So I am embracing in a true manner these days the importance of focusing, excuse me, my meditation, my prayer, and my spiritual practice on living from within outward to absorb this truth to a greater and greater degree. In fact, I often say to myself these days, if I can just absorb it 1% today, even 0.5%, tomorrow will be so much better. You see, it is a journey. So what I'd like you to do right now is join with me in a meditation and get real comfortable in your seat and wiggle a little and take a breath and make it a nice, even inward breath with a couple of seconds holding it, and then let it flutter out. And do that again. An easy breath in, hold it, and release it ever so gently. And focus within to your heart center. And listen to the words I say and make them your own. The spirit which I am will never leave me. The spirit which I am is the essence of the attributes of God, which created me. This is the truth. It is my truth. It is my freedom. I no longer need to believe that I am my physical body. I no longer need to believe that I am my emotions or that my emotions rule who I am. I am not my mental body. Yes, these are useful to me and I'm grateful for them, but they are not me. My soul, my consciousness occupies this that I am. It occupies my physical body, which I use to live and experience life on this plane. My emotions are what my consciousness uses to give power to my plans. And with my mental body, my consciousness formulates thoughts from which I create my experience. And this is a joyful experience. The spirit is my true identity. The I am is eternal. I am grateful for the choices that are mine. I am grateful for my freedom. I am soul. I am son of God. And breathe in all that's important about your reflections on that. And know that they're here for you as you step forward in your life of freedom. And breathe in and hold it and breathe out. And breathe in and hold it and breathe out. I am the soul. You are the soul. And take just a moment to come back into your awareness and to be present right now as the soul that you are. And now I am going to share a story. It's an important story of the life of Charlie Clemens. This is somebody who discovered his identity along the way. In brief, Charlie Clemens was a pilot during the Vietnam War, and he ran missions in Vietnam for 9 months and 50 of those missions. And at that point in his service, he made a decision that and came to an awareness that war was immortal. And because he refused to fly anymore, because at that point they were doing the invasion of Cambodia and he refused to go, they put him in a psychiatric hospital. He stayed there for a while. He used his time wisely to work on his ideas about freedom and freedom of choice. And eventually they gave him a discharge with a 10% disability. Well, I'm here to tell you, the rest of the story will tell you there's no disability in this man. As soon as he came stateside, he became a Quaker. He also ditched the old job that he had as a pilot, and he went to medical school and became an MD. And during that medical training, he became aware that the exploitation and poverty and injustice that he saw all around him was often the origin causing illness and injury. He also learned something very interesting that was happening elsewhere on this planet, that the United States was sending aid and training death squads in El Salvador. And these death squads were murdering in large numbers the Salvadorian citizens and dumping the bodies into pits. And who at the very same time it hit the news had raped and murdered 4 Catholic nuns. Well, Dr. Charlie Clemens decided to provide free medical care to the people living in this war-torn El Salvador, in these areas that were covered by the Salvadorian resistance group, of which he was a part. You see, Dr. Clemens witnessed bombs, rockets, and the strafing of innocent Salvadorians. But he also noticed when he saw those airplanes strafing these innocent people, that these were the very same planes that he had trained in to become a pilot in the Air Force. During this time, he was constantly hunted by these soldiers with the intent to kill him, because anybody who would help the Salvadorian citizens and come to their aid during this time were the enemy. So most of the time that he spent in El Salvador, providing medical care to 10,000 innocent citizens, he had a simple little pack with his medical tools. He lived in the same clothes, he slept in the same clothes. He lived with the pack under his head as his pillow. He lived in the jungles. He lived in pits, he lived in holes, any place that he could be safe enough to serve the next day. When he came home, he testified in Congress about the brutality of the US military in El Salvador. To shock, our Congress people had no idea that this was going on. He led congressional delegations to El Salvador. He raised millions of dollars of aid for the Salvadorians. He went around the United States with a compelling message about another immoral war. And at this time, he wrote a book, Witness to War. And as with any inspired idea, and you know what I mean by inspired, this was an inspired book of his experiences. It was made into a documentary film. He appeared in that documentary film, and the film won an Academy Award in 1987. Now, how did Charlie Clemens come to my attention? There are many freedom fighters and have been for centuries. Well, you see, in 2014, I was chosen to go to El Salvador to be part of a team that was part of the UN Peace Accords to oversee the elections in El Salvador. And I was trained for this role, and I went to polling sites and made sure that the UN requirements for safe, secure, and legal elections was taking place. It was an incredible experience for me. I've never been on a mission trip before. And this was a bigger mission trip than I ever could have imagined. But I was also invited to go back 6 weeks later, which came as a surprise to me, to attend the festivities and the inauguration of the new president, President Cerens, C-E-R-E-N-S. He's a remarkable president. I'll mention something to you about him. Now, the day before the inauguration, I was also invited to go to a town outside San Salvador, El Salvador, to experience their community, a community, and how they made their decisions. You see, it's very, very interesting. All of the people in the town, they gather under a pavilion that has enough seats, enough place for people to sit, and they make their decisions. Now, many months have gone into the making of these decisions because they require unanimity on their community decisions. Thousands of people must come together and must all decide and be in agreement. Now, how do I know this? Because I was in a meeting of mayors before I went to the community meeting, and this was the discussion that they had there. I had an interpreter with me, so I had the ability to understand most of what was going on. Now, a short time later, under the pavilion, I was invited to speak about my experiences in El Salvador, and with the help of my interpreter, because my Spanish has never gotten very good, that was the one question that I got while I was standing there. How good is your Spanish now, Pat? And I said, even though a good bit of my family is fluent in Spanish, Grandma is very slow to learn. I witnessed an event which was riveting. I didn't know what was going on. There was a woman who had stood up. She walked probably 10 feet or 15 feet. I noticed she was very tall. And I also noticed that she had a scar down her face like this. And on this side, well, actually it was this side, it was frozen in place. It was paralyzed. But on this side was a smiling, happy woman. And I was like, wow, she's coming someplace. And I just kept watching her. And then I watched somebody stand up who was prodded to stand up and go and speak with her. And he was a little bit shorter than she was. And when they got to be about 3 feet away, he moved in closer and she whispered in his ear. And then what happened next was his arms flew up, her arms flew out. They embraced in a sobbing gesture. This dawning recognition, I'm a person who's riveted by watching other people's emotions. I actually stand in airports and watch people meeting and greeting people they haven't seen in a while, and I just like drink it in. I'm just like a very vicarious, Well, I loved this scene, but I had no idea what had happened. So a while later, I asked my interpreter, what happened there? She said, oh, let me tell you. Charlie Clemens treated a 3-year-old girl when he was a medical person. This little girl had been hit with shrapnel from a bomb, which nearly split her head in half. And Dr. Charlie did brain surgery on the little girl with no anesthesia and no antibiotics afterwards. And he was not a trained surgeon. This woman walking across was that very same 3-year-old girl, now 31 years later. Charlie Clemens, what a story. I looked forward with excitement to the inauguration next day. I had never been to one before, but the venue was a little smaller than I expected because I was thinking of US inaugurations, I guess. And yet there were more than 1,000 people in the audience. And the people of El Salvador were absolutely jubilant. They were so excited. You see, this President Cerens was one of theirs. He was the first president they had had that came from peasant roots, and he had been one of the freedom fighters in the resistance. He was not a man of money, but he was and is a man of principle. And so people were jubilant in the streets because of the new freedom that this foretold. Now, I'm in the audience and I'm not sure where I'm going to be sitting. I'm expecting I'll be headed to some back corner of the place because, after all, I'm just a visitor from the States. However, I had a really wonderful seat, and turns out it was near the aisle. And at the aisle, I am within, like, reaching of the people coming down that aisle, and they were all of the dignitaries that had been invited. There were kings, there were queens, there were presidents, there were ambassadors, there were extraordinary people, and they were within touching range. But I only looked. I didn't touch anybody. Now, as extraordinary as this experience was for me, I was about to have an even more extraordinary experience. An honor was coming my way. For who came to sit beside me in his assigned seat was Dr. Charlie Clemens, who sat down, who was so gracious, so lovely, so human. We talked like old friends for 3 hours. It was extraordinary. Now, when I came home, I said to my husband, "You'll never guess what happened." And I tell him the story, and I tell him who's seated next to me. And I said, "What are the chances that I would be in El Salvador, number one, number two, at the inauguration, and number three, and sitting next to Charlie Clemens?" And my husband looks at me and he goes, "The chances, 100%. The next day I left, checked out of my hotel, and at the desk, they said, "We have a present for you, Miss Drea." And they hand me the Witness to War book from Charlie Clemens. I still have my tickets in the book. "Dear Pat, may the faith and courage of the peasants in these pages further inspire and sustain your belief in a more just and peaceful world. Thank you for your support. Charlie Clemens, May 31st, 2014, San Salvador." And so Dr. Charlie Clemens embodies so many of the things that I think are important to a freedom fighter. You know, he ditched his whole past life and gave it up, and it wasn't easy. He testified before a Congress that didn't want to hear what he wanted to say, what he had to say. He did a documentary that ran counter to what everybody else believed. He spared no effort to put things right. And so I want to mention an important idea, and that is the idea that as you think about living from within out, and as you think of the other important messages here, that you also think about perseverance, because that's part of this whole message. It's not one and done. It's who you are, the soul of you, the consciousness that shows up and on this plane moves it forward. And I will share just a brief story. And that is the person who most has embodied in my life the idea of perseverance. Now, it's not anybody I ever met, but she sure is close to me. And it's my 4 times great-grandmother. My 4 times great-grandmother came from Norway during a mass exodus, or sort of at the tail end of that, on a ship which could take from 2 to 4 weeks to get over to the United States by way of Canada, I might add. And her husband and older sons were already over here in the Dakotas building a sod hut for them to live in. She had the 2 youngest babies with her that were newborns, and they were twins. But people from Norway used to get on these ships, and then they used to come together as a community. There'd be a lot of people that you knew, so they'd take care of one another. Now, it just so happens that before, a few days before they landed in Canada, they had to make a different route because there was an outbreak of measles on board the boat. And so they dropped people off. Anybody that had been affected by measles was dropped off in Nova Scotia instead of in Quebec, which was originally. The reason my grandmother was dropped off was one of the twins had died of measles. So she's going to make this journey under arduous circumstances with the surviving twin and come across Canada and into the Dakotas to join her family. I could only imagine what it must have been like for her, and I have hundreds of times thought about that. But when I think about it, whatever I'm dealing with seems so small. And the effort that she put forth seems so big. But here's the thing. The story has an interesting turn to it. You see, there they were, the people who had been dropped off, who lost loved ones, who were now encountering their long journey to wherever their final destination was. And they watch and wave as the ship is heading towards the horizon, with hearts full of all kinds of emotions. And then as the ship hit the horizon, it burst into flame and everybody on board died. And this is true. This is true. I have it in the written family history. And this long line of Hansons that populate the United States from Norway, much of their branch comes through this 4 times great-grandmother. And I have my life and my freedom and my adventure due to this very courageous woman. Thank you for listening to my story, but I want to put the footnote there. Each one of you, you have heroes in your life. You have freedom fighters. You have people who demonstrate to you the essence of persistence. Keep them close to your heart. Keep them close to you because they are your inspiration. They feed your freedom and your idea of living from within out. And at this point, I just want to bring to a close an important idea. Our freedom means we must raise our voice. How can you be free if you don't act free? Acting free means speaking up, speaking out, being where decisions are made, influencing, doing the kinds of things that all of our heroes have done and that Charlie Clemens did. It means ditching an old life and taking up a new one. Reinventing yourself as a person who knows where you come from and the power that you are. So with so many things going on in the United States right now, it is important that you speak up out of the essence of the divine life that you are living and express freedom in its broadest and most truthful expression. the soul of freedom. Speak up, raise your voice, be counted, influence. If Charlie Clemens could do it, ditching his pilot life, I can do it too. So I speak these words for you and me. I am the offspring of a loving, vibrant universe. I am neither my body, my emotions, nor my mental faculties. They're just tools at my disposal. The great divine cause backs me in everything I say and do with the voice of freedom. I am strong, I am sufficient, I am enough. I was created free and I live free. And like those valiant people before me, I declare my freedom and the expansive freedom that I experience. And I do this for all of my life. My great voice is heard. I am a crucial entity, a voice in the universe. And my voice rings out loud and clear because I and each one of you make the universe complete. And so it is. I am delighted now to enter into our offertory. This offertory is our chance to circulate the freedom that we are to the freedom that we honor. We thank you for your financial support. It is enabling us to be unity, to express as unity, and to manifest these grand ideas that are soon to be seen. Join with me in saying our prosperity blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing that the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. Wherever the presence of God watches over us, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.